Hi everybody, welcome back. We're back on the moon today using the worldwide telescope that Ben Pellom introduced us to. And it's a super simple tool, and I've given some really simple instructions on this in this video along with a link in the description. And I really recommend that everybody use it. It doesn't take anything special at all. Just go to the website, do these simple steps, and the next thing you know, you're in looking at these incredible craters on the moon. Now, one thing I want to mention is recently it's come to my attention that every screen that I look at with my videos, it shows something different. I bought a really expensive TV, a big 65-inch, one of those OLEOs or whatever they are, and it's supposed to be really good on the blacks and the whites, and about 75% of the black and white videos that I show, I can't watch it on that TV. I recently was at my brother's house and he has a new high definition monitor. I looked at one of my videos on there, I couldn't recognize it. And sometimes I can't even adjust the TV enough to actually make it work. You know, they have presets for different looks on your TV, and then you can also do your own adjustments. Sometimes I can't even make it work with that. So keep that in mind. If for some reason I'm telling you something and you can't see it, I think there's a good chance that, you know, that it may have something to do with your monitor. My monitor at work, I can't recognize any of the stuff that I do. In other words, I can't watch any of my videos at work. Damn it. Anyway, so yeah, it's really important that you try to adjust your TV or your monitor or whatever it is you're using. If you think you're not, if what you're seeing doesn't match up with what I'm saying, yes, then there's an issue there. And it's really different from every monitor and every TV to the next. Sometimes you just have to adjust it a little bit. So we're back on the moon and we're back in the crater. As we know, it apparently everything outside of these dark craters has been obfuscated. They use that image tampering software that they have, and they just completely mess it up. But for some reason, they didn't touch these craters. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, you know, who would zoom in on blackness, right? This is something that Ben Pellom did, showed me how to do it. And once you zoom in on all that blackness, you get you get these patterns. And this is more than just a pattern here, folks. You know, we've been all over the solar system on this channel, and we've seen a lot of different things. But I can tell you one thing, we've never seen anything like this before. This is completely unique to our moon, and unique it is. You know, this is a crazy, this is a city. This is one big city here. There's a whole lot of people here. And what an odd city it is. I mean, I don't know about you, but you know, what in your mind, what did you figure an alien city would look like? You know, a lot of people say big, tall buildings, incredible architecture. Um, and while we don't see big, tall buildings here, we do have some incredible architecture that is so unusual. Um, for the last couple months, I was a little bit unsure about these long striped looking structures on the ground in the crater here. And at one point I thought that they were raised up, but it was hard to tell. However, I'm positive beyond a shadow of a doubt now that these structures are indeed raised up. And I'm going to give you some different looks. You know, I have a lot of different looks here today. We've got, you know, too much contrast, not enough contrast, too bright, too dark, whatever it is, I'm showing it all. But I want to try and get you know, a view of what it really looks like. It's hard to perceive with the two-dimensional pictures. Now, you can see on the right top quadrant, there's three stripes there, three white buildings with the corresponding shadow facing us. Now, if you look closely, you can see that those structures are sitting on top of other similar structures. And this is what you have to do to understand these pictures, is take a close look. And I want to say that, you know, you really should take a close look at everything in these pictures. It's not a waste of your time. Hit the space bar, hit the pause, and look closely and look into these pictures. The reward is really great. And so I really recommend that you take your time. I tried to space these pictures out a little bit more, give us some more time. But really, you need to hit the space bar and pause it and take a close look. Now here I've taken a close-up on these three structures, but once you have seen this, then you realize when you start looking around that, well, these aren't the only ones like that. And you'll see more of that coming up. But this is a truly incredible design. I mean, there I go with my used up adjectives again. What can I say? I still think it's incredible. But not everything is raised, but you can see what is. As long as there's, you know, structures, let's see, rectangular, these are all rectangular. You'll find them one on top of the next, maybe 3 or 4 high, maybe only 1 high. It's different throughout, but the ones that are stacked up high, you can tell, you can pretty much tell, you know, that they're stacked up high. And it gives the impression of you know, it reminds me of those old, you know, big square buildings from the 60s and the 50s that they had in the big cities, you know, these Federalist style buildings. You know, these are big like that, but there's more to the picture here, and it's gonna have to be a video in the future. You know, these buildings, you might have noticed, I've talked about it before, they have these stripes going across them all at an angle. And in fact, even when they're stacked up, there's these gaps in between. And it's complicated. I think that each one of these long buildings, these long rectangular buildings, is what looks like a long rectangular building, but it's made up of rows of smaller buildings, all contained within that rectangular look. And it's kind of hard to explain, but and it doesn't make sense either for stacking buildings. You know, it makes sense if they were one solid building stacked up on top of the next, on top of the next, as opposed to individually small buildings. Right in the center of the screen, coming down from the top, you can see a row that has stopped. It's on top of the rows below it, but you get a very clear vision of where where it's stacked up at. It's just an incredible look. And then in the areas where we don't have these long rectangular looking buildings, it seems that the rest of the structures in the middle, between, under, are more, you know, standard kinds of buildings, you know, the kinds of buildings that you expect to see. But these long rectangular ones are just so fascinating. And frankly, I think that eventually, I believe that this crater floor will eventually be covered all the way across with these long rectangular buildings that get built up. And if you draw a line from one side of this crater to the other, you'll see that all of these little rectangular buildings that are in the middle, that are all going from left to right, they line up perfectly. Now, this is a modular construction. Look at this at the right-hand side of your screen, about the right third, and you see where there's a big flat area, and there's 4 or 5 pieces of these rectangular buildings that are not yet in place. Do you see that with the gap there? Isn't that unusual? Another thing, look at what's on the far right here. I had a very hard time understanding what on earth that was. I couldn't understand the relationship between these structures on the right and everything else on the left. And what that is the edge of the crater wall coming down. These are the structures on the edge of the crater that are coming down to meet what's on the flat area. And this area on the edge of the craters is something that we don't get to see very much, I don't think, because everything that's white on the worldwide telescope, not including the black areas of the craters, just the white areas, it's all been obfuscated right up to the edges of the black craters. And for some reason, some of this was allowed through, and you can see in the bottom right corner that this bleached out white area is where the obfuscation ends. So it did allow us a glimpse of the crater wall coming down, and we can actually see what kinds of buildings are in there. And they do seem to be a bit different. It is an incredibly busy place structure-wise, right? But these buildings on the far right are somewhat different, and it's a very interesting look. And throughout the center of this picture, not the big rectangular sections, it looks like there's buildings with pillars, here and there. I doubt if they're pillars. They just look like pillars. Very distinct looking area there in the middle. But this is total craziness, everybody. This is one crater on the moon. One small crater on the moon, okay? There are many, many, many more, right? Obviously. I frequently talk about how driving on the roads around here are a lot like driving on the surface of the moon. There's just so many potholes. Well, there's a lot of craters up there. And from what I've been able to tell, all of them with that are all blacked out, all have something in them. Every one of them, there'd be a different pattern, and it's all something in flux, right? I think it's something that's still in the process of being built up. So, I don't know what to say. It's just a really incredible notion that our moon is as populated as it is. I don't have the answers for this. I have lots of ideas, but why we have been unable to see this from Earth, I don't know. I've talked about it in the past, some of the previous videos. I don't want to get into it in this video, but it's there. It's absolutely there, and it's repeatable. And these kinds of things, these aren't one-off pictures. This isn't one unusual picture. This is something that we can see over and over and over. It's symmetrical. These are the things that are required to identify civilization. And, it's easy to do in these pictures because it is so repeatable, and it's obviously extremely symmetrical. So it's really there, guys. There's a huge population on the moon. I'm quite sure it's much larger than Earth. So, I wish other researchers would get their hands on this telescope and look and start digging into this. There's more than enough of this kind of stuff for all of these researchers. We should all be sharing what we do, really. That's what I think. It's not as if there's not enough to go around, right? There's plenty to go around. We could all spend the next several years just on the moon pictures from the Worldwide Telescope alone. So, folks, share these things with your favorite YouTube channels or whoever, and get them to start taking a look at this. I'd love to see somebody else's pictures for a change. I want to see someone do a better job on this than me. You know, I'm still learning how to do this, and I'm getting better as time goes on. This video was really tough because I started out with too many pictures I could do better on, and I just kind of had to reconstruct the whole thing. It was really difficult, but I've gotten better, and there's so much to see, but I know there's other researchers out there that can do a better job than me. And we need to get on this and get it out there, because in our lives on Earth, now, right now, this is far more important than anything at all, including Ukraine, believe it or not. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.